Welcome back to the OBM Show. I'm your host, Sarah Noked, and today we're diving into a conversation that hits close to home for so many of us online business managers, and that is what to do when your client becomes the bottleneck. Now, you know what I'm talking about. The project plan is polished, the team is prepped, you are ready to roll, and then radio silence, right? Your client disappears into the ether, leaving your ClickUp board half-baked and your team twiddling their thumbs. It's like trying to steer a car with no driver, or worse, one who keeps slamming the brakes without telling anybody why. Okay, it's maddening. And let's be honest, it's one of the most frustrating parts of being an OBM because you're showing up with leadership, you're showing up with systems, with strategy, and somehow you're the one stuck waiting on Slack for a reply about a decision that should have just taken 5 minutes. It's not just inconvenient, it's demoralizing because deep down you care, you're invested, you're trying to keep momentum, you're trying to deliver results and make the business run. And instead of being the calm and the chaos, your client is the chaos. Okay, this episode is for every OBM who's been there, for the ones nodding along thinking, yes, Sarah, this was literally me on Tuesday. And for those of you who are wondering whether you are allowed to do something about it, I'm here to say, not only are you allowed, but you are expected to, because when your client becomes the bottleneck, that's your cue to step in as the leader, not to fix them, but to shift the way the business moves. And today we're going to talk about exactly how to do that with confidence, with clarity, and with a dash of cheeky OBM energy. Let's be real, this happens more than we like to admit. You've got the systems, you've got the team, you've got the plan, but your client is stuck in decision paralysis, overwhelmed, or simply unresponsive. And now you're left holding the bag. And I want to say right out of the gate, this doesn't mean your client is bad or that you're doing anything wrong. It means that you're dealing with a leadership gap, and that's where the OBM comes in. So this episode is for you if you've ever found yourself asking, how do I manage up? How do I lead when the person I'm supposed to support won't get out of their own damn way? And how do I make sure that inaction doesn't derail everything that we've built? So let's start with why this even happens, okay? So high-level CEOs, they are juggling a million trillion things. They are those visionaries, those creatives, those founders. They thrive in big ideas. But the day-to-day, that day-to-day grind ain't so much their jam. And when the pressure builds, the first thing to go is decision-making capacity. Suddenly, your detailed ClickUp plan is waiting on a single Slack message. Your team can't move forward until the client approves a budget and you're stuck in limbo. So what do? First things first, you name it, but not in a confrontational way, because that ain't our style, right? You want to try something like, hey there, dear client, I noticed we're hitting a pause point on the project timeline. I want to make sure you're supported to move forward. Can we look at where the bottlenecks are happening and realign on decisions that need to be made? So very simple, but this, my friends, is your stepping into the OBM role as the operations leader, not just the executor. And yes, it most definitely will feel a bit awkward at first, especially if you've always been in reactive mode. But naming what's going on in a clear, professional, and empathetic way sets the tone for a productive reset. Now, the second important thing to do here, if your client is a bottleneck, is create containers for decision making. So if you're relying, and I know a lot of the times this happens, on scattered messages and loose end follow-ups, your client's bandwidth will be shot before they even start. So use tools like Loom. You know me, you guys can head on over to the obmschool.com/tools webpage to see our entire tech stack, but you know I am a sucker for a good screencast. In fact, inside of our OBM accreditation, we really leverage this to present project plans because it really does let you be able to send clear options. I would create a decision document, right? Like with choose A or choose B prompts, and build a system where the client can review and reply in 5 minutes, instead of needing an hour. So one of our accelerator grads, Renee, her client was notorious for ghosting on approvals. So Renee, in her OBM way, built a beautiful weekly decision dashboard in Notion. Every Monday, Renee sends a Loom screencast walking the client through the week's pending items. How smart is this? And her client reviews it while drinking coffee on Tuesday morning, and suddenly approvals start flowing. Bottleneck cleared. So this is the kind of solution that doesn't just solve a problem, it elevates your role in the eyes of the client. And that, my friends, is why I'm here. You are not just chasing updates, you're creating systems that make it a hell of a lot easier for the business to operate efficiently. Now, another trick I've seen work wonders is embedding in your client's calendar CEO time. And while you're at it, put this in your calendar as well. A 30-minute protected window every week where the CEO knows this is when decisions need to be made. You hold this space, you prep the doc, and you, OBM, guide the conversation. Then you have a really good space to answer these concerns. Now, the third piece is setting boundaries around delays. This is a big one. Because when the client becomes the bottleneck and you just keep absorbing the delays, you are reinforcing this sick dynamic. Okay, it's not sick. But you're reinforcing this dynamic that obviously does not serve you as an OBM. So instead, build pause points into your contracts. Have language like, if project decisions are not made within X days, timelines will shift accordingly and rescheduling fees may apply. This is not intended to be a threat. So if it comes across that way, my biggest apologies. This is not a threat. It is structure. It is about creating clarity. It also shows your client that time is a resource and that indecision costs, okay? And when the client sees that, they tend to move quicker. Don't you, OBM, underestimate the power of naming these boundaries out loud. It might sound like, so dear client, I want to make sure we are protecting the integrity of the timeline. If we are delayed past Wednesday, and even as I'm saying this, I hear Tovi Veeder, our OBM, I hear her voice in my mind, which is so funny. So I want to make sure that we are protecting the integrity of the timeline. If we're delayed past Wednesday, we need to shift the rest of the calendar accordingly. You're not threatening, you're just pointing out the obvious. Now, the fourth thing is I want you to step into the CEO gap. This is like a nice place to be. So sometimes your client doesn't need another reminder. They need a recommendation because they're overwhelmed. So here's my next step. Start with, hey, dear client, here's my suggestion. Let's go with option B, which keeps us on track and within budget. Let me know by Wednesday, or I'll plan to move forward with that. And that is why OBMs become irreplaceable, because of the secret. CEOs are relieved when you take initiative. They are looking for somebody who can think just like a partner, not just execute like an assistant. So let me tell you about somebody else in our community who really embodies this. So her name is Megan. So Megan was working with a high-profile business coach who had a massive following, but zero internal structure. And Megan's job was to lead the back end of a group program launch. But every decision, pricing, platform, delivery was stuck in the CEO's head. And after 3 weeks of trying to extract answers through endless Slack threads, Megan booked a very simple 30-minute call, created a visual roadmap with color-coordinated options, and said, hey, dear client, I need you to pick a lane so that I can execute. The CEO chose, the team moved, the launch made 6 figures, and Megan got her bonus incentive off the launch for hitting the goal. Now, if you've ever felt like your job is being the reminderer instead of the strategist, think about how you can borrow Megan's approach. What's one area of your client's business that's stuck because they haven't made a call on a certain thing? Could you package their options? Could you offer a clear path forward. Remember that your client's bottleneck moment is your leadership moment. It's the space where you stop being the person who helps out and becomes the person who moves the business forward. And if you're wondering how to build that confidence, that structure, and that strategic presence, this is what we teach inside of OBM School. It's not just about systems, it's about the energy and the language of leadership. It's about building the muscle to hold space for a CEO without collapsing into the chaos. And I'll say this as well. One of the most powerful things I see about students inside of OBM School is co-working. Yes, co-working. It's not about productivity. It's about community. It's where our OBMs gather to say, this is where I'm stuck. This is the convo I'm about to have with a client. Help me hold the boundary, be my sounding board. It's where leadership is practiced out loud, in real time, with real support. And before I wrap, I want to leave you with this. You are not powerless when your client is the bottleneck. You have the tools, you have the insight, and you, my friends, have the authority to move things forward with clarity, with calm, and with confidence. If you're just getting started, I'm gonna leave a bunch of practical, easy to use resources linked below this video and in the podcast show notes, or you can just head on over to obmschool.com/resources to grab them all in one place. And if you're ready to step fully into your leadership, reposition your role, and start getting paid like a strategic partner, grab my OBM starter kit. It is packed with tools and templates that are really gonna help you level up. You can find it at obmschool.com/starter. Thank you for tuning in to the OBM Show. If this episode gave you a fresh perspective, send it to a fellow OBM who needs to hear it. Subscribe, leave a review, and remember, leaders don't wait for permission. They build momentum. I'll see you in the next episode.